Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to be with this distinguished group today, our fellow YPO members across the country. I will give it just a minute here to let a few people enter, but we are so excited. We want to thank the Marketing Network for helping us put this event on. And I know you'll gain some valuable insights that you can take back to your personal life and your professional life and empower those around you. So we'll give it just a few more seconds here, let a few more people join, and then we will jump in. All right, I tell you what, let's go ahead and jump in. This is going to be a fun session. I'm your host, Shane Power. I'm the board chair at YPO Scottsdale. My journey has taken me from the hardwood as a former professional athlete to the boardroom. And I found that the same principles work, whether it's in sports or in business. And businesses give me the chance to kind of tell my story. And the best way to do that, like what is marketing to you? Marketing to me is taking the unknown and making it known, right? So maybe your unknown business and making it known, unknown concepts and creating a concept that now people know, or unknown people and creating relationships, right? So we're here today talking about personal branding, and I'm going to kick it to our featured speaker in a second. But personal branding is about being authentic, and it's about creating relationships, getting deeper into that relationship, because what does that do? That creates trust, and through trust, you get speed. So whether that's personally or professionally, relationships, trust, speed, that's why we're here today. Okay. So if we can pull up Tamara's slide here, guys, I am so honored to have our featured speaker as Tamara Loehr. She's somebody that I've worked with the last 3 years. And quite frankly, I feel like she's the #1 marketing speaker within our YPO circuit. And through my own experience, real quick with her, she's helped in my last company, my original qualifying YPO company. We were spending $1 million a month on marketing. For some of you, that's a little. For some of you, that's a lot, right? But what I figured out quickly was not everyone on the team was singing from the same hymn sheet. I don't know if you guys have seen that in your company. Here's a quick test. Ask you as the founder or your hired gun president or CEO to articulate your brand and the mission, and then go down the line. Go to your VPs, right? Go to your regional managers, go to your actual people that are out touching the community, and I will bet you a lot that they will articulate it in different ways, right? So you're not getting that brand consistency, that consistent messaging, and what ends up happening, you can't get deeper in the relationships like that. So Tamara helped me and my companies sing from the same hymn sheet. And the way that you do that is through process and SOP that she's going to share with you. And then when that happens and everyone's on the same page and you're empowering even your newest employee to be confident, right, in the messaging, now you have something special because now you have aligned mission and vision, all locked arms together, creating momentum and advancing your mission. That's what Tamara helped me do. She took me from unconsciously competent, which I probably am in a lot of things, to consciously competent and intentional and strategic and organized. So I know that you're going to love hearing today how personal branding can help you and then also drive leads for your business. So just again, if you don't know Tamara, she's spoken across the world for us here at YPO. Her business partner, Natalie Nichols, is on with us and will be in the breakout sessions. Natalie's incredible. To me, one of the top growth advisors in the world. So Tamara was awarded top 11 most impactful female leaders. It's an honor to have her on, and guys, she lives her mission. 2024, she was one of the Real Leaders, another great organization, top 150 Real Leaders. And her and Natalie mentor over $6 billion worth of revenue annually and growing. And it's because she not only is an expert, but she lives it. Whether it's marketing or whether her business for good principles, She actually lives it. Okay. So that's what she's going to help us do. Empower us to organize our personal brand, right? Grow in it, and then grow the community in it and resonate with those people out there that resonate with your core beliefs and build those deep, meaningful relationships. Does that sound good to everybody? Awesome. All right, Tamara, I am so excited to go through this with you. I'm going to kick it to you and let's jump right in.
Thank you so much, Shane. Oh, gosh, you'll bring me to tears before I even start. Isn't it magical, YPO? Not only the people you get to help, but the people you meet and the friendships that you make. And I think after 25 years of being an entrepreneur and building and exiting businesses, for me, this is really about giving back. What are the best principles? And for me to be able to share this with somebody like Shane, that's the sorts of people we need out there getting airtime. Not your Kagadones and your freaking Kardashians and things like that. We really need authentic people, heart-centered leaders out there sharing their message and driving business as a force for good. So I'm really honored to be here. We have a lot of content to get through. This is a workshop. If you haven't had a coffee, go get a shot right now. And we're going to be guiding you through this process. And I've bought, any person who's done anything, you don't become a large business unless you've got amazing people around you. So I have recruited all my faves and they're here to help you as well. So by the end of this, my intention is that you not only understand the fundamentals of how you can turn this into an engine room for you, but also how you can do this in a structured SOP way and also do it in under 2 hours a month. Because we're all busy people and we all have intentions that we want to share our vision and our mission. And we know what that does for business. It attracts 18 players and the best businesses must have 18 players. That's a non-negotiable. It also drives lead gen. A lot of people are using personal branding for personal branding only. They don't realize that it's also a massive lead gen tool. So I'm going to take you through the mechanics of how we've refined this over the last decade in particular, and use this structure for dozens, I think hundreds, of leaders, so that you can take this back into your business and action this immediately. I like outcomes very quickly. I'm an impatient entrepreneur. So what we've developed here, our IP, our SOPs, please know in true YPO spirit, we're actually here to share that with you so you can take that away. So a little bit about us. You can Google this later. We basically couple our frameworks. So when something works inside sales marketing as far as a growth driver, we turn that into an SOP so that we can plug that into businesses and scale it really quickly. And we do that through combining that with both offshore teams. So the number one key message is that you need to own your growth. And most companies don't. But when you can own your growth and create predictable revenue models that are repeatable and scalable, that's when you see those companies that skyrocket and are worth a lot more than other companies as far as evaluation. So we create in-house teams using the top 1% of global talent. We build that in-house and we drive the growth inside companies. So today we're going to show you one of the EGS modules. We've got dozens of them, but this growth system that we're going to show you relates to personal branding and lead gen. So why create a personal brand? We're going to go through why you should step up. A lot of people have a mental block around, I don't want to be famous and I don't like talking about myself. We need to get past that first. So we're going to address that head on. Then we're going to look at what are the foundations that you need, strong foundations in branding, in personal and corporate branding that you need. And then how do you use that to drive lead gen, which is a piece that a lot of people haven't mastered yet. So that's a critical piece. This isn't just an investment in your personal brand. It's an investment in your business growth. So we're going to work through these components. And I'm going to show you how to do that with the help of a team, an in-house team, so that you can do that in, well, I do it in under 2, but Mickey knows me so well now, I rarely even approve my posts. So, all right, let's have a look. So why did I step up? At the end of the day, pay-per-click is a massive investment and organic is way more affordable. If you're in a direct-to-consumer business, it's a pay-to-play environment. But what we've forgotten is that almost 50% of traffic still comes from organic. What that means is that people aren't necessarily always clicking on ads. They're wanting to find out what the general web or public thinks about you. And whether it's positive or not, 97% of perception is reality online. So what they find about on when they research you and you or your company, whatever they find online, they're taking that as gospel, which is quite interesting. So we need to make sure that we're focusing on organic as well as pay-per-click. And in most companies that we mentor and go in as growth advisors, it's very tilted the other way. Organic stays around forever. And the pay-per-click, they're spending, say, 100,000 or 50,000 on that, but they're not spending the same amount of money and effort on the organic side. So this is very much about an organic growth strategy. Obviously, I don't want that investment in my personal brand and my organic to just be about brand recognition. I also want it to drive lead gen. And then, of course, business is a force for good. I really do believe that business is what will change the world, not governments. We are YPO, we're 33,000 strong. So if we can all, even if half of us stood up, got over ourselves and said, actually, this is not about us. This is about sharing how business is doing amazing things inside the people that they employ, their teams, inside their communities, and fixing world problems and contributing to world problems, the philanthropic work that I have seen Shane and so many other amazing YPOers do is truly a special story. And unfortunately, like YPO, it's the best kept secret. And those messages need to be out there so that we're attracting more heart-centered leaders to step up and become entrepreneurs or join us. The other reason is when you think about once you have thousands of employees or even hundreds of employees, you've got stakeholders, you've got friends and family, and we're all jumping around the world from one YPO event to another meeting. It's very hard to keep in contact with all of them. So for me, this is a great way for me to share my journey with the people that I care about that I may not get as much time with that I'd like all the time. So this is a great way for me, people who I mentor or women who aspire to have businesses, large businesses and global businesses. I can share my story with them and inspire them without physically having to be in person. The other one is looking at your evolution. If you look at your timeline, and that's one of the first things you do when you get into YPO is you start mapping out your timeline. We're constantly reinventing ourselves. So if Shane had just gone out as the professional athlete and not spoken about to his business acumen, then when he made that transition from a professional athlete to the boardroom, as he talked about, he'd have to restart again with his brand messaging. So, and when we look at CEOs, gone are the days where they have an average tenure of 20 years. Most of them are usually changing in under 10 years. So it's important that throughout that journey, we're sharing our personal branding mission and what's important to us on the way through, rather than just making everything about your personal brand about your actual business. Some go on to exit their businesses. And we all know that when you exit a business, it feels like you're adopting a child. So how do we make sure that your brand isn't just tied to your corporate? And some people that I watch on LinkedIn, all they do is talk about their business. But what I want to know about you is, why did you choose this business? How are you solving those problems? What drives you to make this impact? And what's important to you in your life? So if you have a look at mine, it's all over the place, which is like most entrepreneurs, the roller coaster. But I love to reflect on this. And Mickey, when she interviews me for my content, she goes all the way back and she says to me, talk to me about the days when you first made your first million. And at the time, it was incredible. And then talk to me about when you joined YPO and what that meant for your expansion as far as network and learning. And tell me about some of those lows down there where they go right down bottom. What happened there? What went wrong there? What were the lessons that you learned? So it's really important to do this exercise where you map out your timeline so that you can reflect and share the journey with other people so that they can relate to you at no matter what stage that they're at. And also look a bit human too, right? There's nothing worse than the people who show up in your feed and all they seem to be doing is going from a helicopter to an Aston Martin and everything's rosy, right? I just think that's about being a heart-centered leader. We share both. And then, of course, I alluded to this before, but how do we tap into the organic market online? And we call this EAT. How do we position you as the experts, authority, and trusted in your space? And when we look at the statistics, yes, AI and technology is going at record speeds and we can't keep up with it, but human beings are still human beings. We still love human contact. We still want to feel trusted. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to belong. And that's why 48% of people still prefer to click and research when it comes to your brand on organic, which is a huge opportunity to tap into. And then, of course, AI. I think my prediction is that as AI rises, people will revert back to human beings to understand what's true and what's not, because there's going to be a lot of content out there that's going to be generated by AI about the business, about the products, about the service. But most people, I believe, will go back to the founder. There's no such thing as a faceless CEO anymore. It's really important that they can have a look for the humans behind a business and behind a brand and get, like Shane said before, trust reduces speed. So if we can get back to human connection, but do this on scale, utilizing online, then I think that's going to be a winning formula in the future. And it's already working for a lot of us now, but I think as AI rises, that's going to become more relevant. And then, of course, like I said before, I want to see more of you in my feed. I don't need to see any more of this. This is not what business is about. Yes, we've all had payback. Yes, we bought toys and gone on good holidays, but this isn't what business is. And we need to show the next generation that entrepreneurship and YPO is not $9 trillion worth of revenue. It is actually 33,000 members that are solving problems every day with the right intentions to do more good than they do bad and to give back. And I'm not seeing enough of that. So this is my why. I have a stay-at-home dad. That's the reason I was able to focus on business. We divided and conquered, and he certainly has the harder job. And I have two girls, and I want them to see role models like Kendra Scott and obviously Oprah. But those sorts of people, I want those sorts of women to be inspiring them, not the influencers that we see in their feed. Hence why my kids don't have social. And they're watching. These are two beautiful letters that I got from my kids when they were younger. And you don't realize they're looking at what you're doing and how you're showing up. And that's really important. And when you extend that then to your team, we employ hundreds of women and some of them are here today, like beautiful Bettina. You are their role model and their Sherpa. So it's our job to guide them and show them what's possible. So one of the things and one of the hardest things to do when it comes to a personal brand, in order to, if you're a speaker in particular, if you're looking at doing speaking, is think about an origin story. Now, your origin story, you're not going to get this in this workshop. This is one thing I want you to take away and think about. But your origin story is a vivid vision, if you've ever done the vivid vision exercise, of a time and a moment in your life that really set you on a certain path. And you may not have known it at the time, but it was one of those pivotal points in your life. And a lot of people, when I ask them to work on their origin story, they go back to college or they go back to their first job. But this is digging even deeper. So when we think about 5%ers that we do in forum and where we have to go really deep and we get challenged on it, right? We say, oh, this is the problem. People go deeper. What's underlying underneath that reaction or that trigger or that meaning? I want you to do the same when it comes to your origin story. Think about a time that you could share with people in a vulnerable, vivid vision way to be able to set them up for why you are on this planet. What is your purpose? Why were you put here? So I'm going to give you an example. And this first exercise, I want you to take away, ask your parents, what crazy thing did I do when I was, young that relates to what I'm passionate about now? And ask them. So this actually, my origin story came from my father. And his version of the story was quite different to mine. And, it reminded me of this moment. So I'll share mine with you. And again, you have to paint the picture. So I am quite young, as you can see on the left, a very creative person. I grew up in Australia, as you can tell from the silly accent, above Cairns, very remote, indigenous area. We had the Great Barrier Reef at the front, so I would snorkel, and then I would be able to go for long walks in the rainforest, in the Daintree rainforest in Australia. So I had the best of both worlds, and it was like heaven on earth. And when I was young, I loved to paint, I loved to draw, and I loved being in nature. And one day, when I was at school, I was 9 years old. They said that we were doing an excursion and we were going to visit where our parents worked, which was really exciting. They gave us these hard hats that were like 10 times bigger than my head. And we put on the hard hats and the vests, which was like a long dress for me. And we got on this bus and we drove out to a mine site. My dad has been a miner since he was 17, still in the same job since he was 17. Zero entrepreneurs in my family. And we get out and we're standing in front of the massive hole that you see in the top right-hand corner. And it's a coal mine. But in the far distance, you can see the start of the rainforest where they've dug from to get to this coal. And what was really sad for me, I was overwhelmed at the size of it, sheer size of it, and the sheer destruction of it. And I was quite angry. I've always been a little feisty. I ran straight back to the bus and didn't want to be there anymore. And that night when I sat down and he said, "How was your excursion?" I was really upset. And I said, "How could you do this? How could you go to work and do this every single day?" To which he sternly replied, "Don't be so ungrateful. This is how we put food on the table." And I said, well, I crossed my arms and I said, "Well, if that's the case, then I'm not going to work for someone like you." I was very clear. I didn't even know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought I was growing up to get a job. But I refused at that moment. I said, "I will never work for money and do something bad." So that's an origin story. So when you start a presentation, or if you're thinking about your content, think about your origin story and how you can stand up. A TED Talk usually always starts in an origin story. And you really want to take them to that place. Describe the details of the rainforest. Describe the cassowary in the rainforest. That's a big emu that looks like a prehistoric animal that's chasing you. Do whatever you can to reenact that moment for them. The second exercise is around values, which is really important because even if you go through your whole life, your values rarely change, and they're usually core 4 or 5 values. And whenever I look at times in my life where things on my timeline went really low, one of these values was compromised. I had made a decision to perhaps invest or sell a business to somebody who didn't have the same values as this. So when they bought it, it was eroded or the business imploded because I chose the bigger check or the bigger PE firm over somebody who was perhaps paying less but had really good intentions for the people in the business. So these are mine. Creativity, as you know, freedom. So if someone offers me a great job, but I have to be in an office, in a cubicle, in the corner office, even every day of the week, 9 to 5, that is not going to work for me. It has to be impactful. And I like to disrupt. I like to do the opposite. I like to go into industries and say, "I know this is how you've always done it, but how could we do it with more purpose and still have profit?" So, Mickey, you're the master of values and you do this with lots of YPOers. and you'll be taking the values room. Would you mind sharing a moment around why this is so important to have as part of your core personal branding foundations?
Thank you, Tamara. Yeah, I love the values exercise because it helps essentially anyone recognize that it's not so much about putting the spotlight on you, which a lot of us are afraid of. We don't want to be the celebrity on stage with the spotlight on us, but it gives the spotlight into your hands so you can put it onto the things that matter most to you, to the impact you want to create, the change you want to see, the way you want the world to work, and the things you're trying to create. And so this exercise really clarifies what those things are. And when you see events or speak to stories or experience share, as YPOers love, it allows you to see the true angles and purpose behind these posts and this sharing, and gives bigger meaning to it. So I find it helps overcome that challenge of being fearful of sharing and helps you understand why we're sharing and the impact you can create.
Great. So you're going to be taking a breakout room and helping people work through an exercise in order to define your values. You don't just sit down and go, what are my values? Blank pages never work well. So you've refined this and you've worked with dozens and dozens of YPOers to get them to their core values. So for those that are really interested in that exercise, Mickey will be heading up that room in the breakouts later. It's a really rewarding process. The next one, thanks, Mickey. The next one is the compass, which is basically taking an elevator pitch, and you can do this for either your business, and I actually suggest having both, a business compass and a personal compass. For your personal branding, we're going to be using it for that purpose. But it's basically breaking down the elevator pitch. So I read the book Start With Why, and I loved the concept. I love Simon Sinek, but there was no SOP. So, of course, I needed to create one. And human beings can remember 3 by 3 things. So, regardless of whether I'm pitching to you for a business or talking to you about me personally, you've got to think in 3 by 3. So, how this exercise works is, who are you? And then what and how do you achieve that? So rather than spending 10 minutes talking about yourself or about your company, it's really important to articulate it. So for me, what I do, the first one's really easy. What is your professional career? I'm a growth advisor to conscious companies. The next one is your business column, because we want a mix of both business, personal, and obviously impact. So the next one's all about what your company does. So we at Concertina combine EGS with the top 1% of talent. And then the last column, which has 3 boxes underneath it as well, is your purpose. What is your purpose? And I really do believe business is a force for good. So that's me. That's what I do. This is my company, and this is why I do it. And then what you want to do underneath each of those is just elaborate on 3 key areas around that. And when you speak to people and they say, so Tamara, who are you? I'm a growth advisor to conscious companies. I have a company that had developed EGS, and we do that in coupling with the top 1% of talent because I believe in business as a force for good. Now, as people are listening to that, they're going to pick on one of those things. They're going to go, ooh, I'm really interested in growing my business. Tell me how you do that. And then you go 3 deep on that. How we do that, we're growth advisors. I've been an investor. I've built and exited companies, and I've mentored roughly around 5 to 10 billion every year. So I've seen a lot. So you go down the columns for each of them. So that's the concept. It works the same way in a business compass as well. And what we want to do is get those 3 at the top clarified, and then create the 3 main reasons why you do that and how you do that underneath it. And then this for Mickey is like, and her team, it is endless content for Mickey. So this creates your content strategy, because now we have 9 boxes of content that she can go into. And so she'll go in and she'll do a piece that's 9 posts that can be done in a week. She can do, a quick video interview with me and take a snippet around, and she'll ask me questions in each of these and create 9 short 30-second videos. She can do an article on one of these. She can do a quote that I may have said around each of these. So for her, these 9 boxes are her sweet spot, and how she can generate lots and lots of content very effortlessly around these 9 pillars, if that were 3 pillars and 9 boxes. So that's a really worthwhile exercise, and it's actually quite simple to work through. And we'll be doing that as one of the breakout rooms as well, around how do we create your 3x3 so that we can navigate the content very easily. So that is the concept of a compass. And if anyone would like more details on the EGS module around the business compass, we have a full worksheet on that, and I'd be happy to supply that to you.
And Tamara, I'll jump in for a second.
Yes,
Many
please.
times at our YPOI events, right, you have just a minute or two to talk with our fellow YPO members. And Tamara gives a great analogy on riding up that elevator, right? And by the top of the elevator, you want to know what they do and what they stand for. And how many times, we're all guilty of it, right? Have you been in a conversation where you still don't know what the person does 10, 15 minutes later? You're trying to figure it out, right? This exercise helps you to find who, what, how very quickly, and obviously the why, as she mentions.
Thank you, Shane. And, being able to articulate that is quite an art. And what's great is that people, depending on where they are in their business or life cycle, will gravitate to one of the things that you've said, and then you can go deep on that conversation, which is really powerful. So, and you've nailed yours. So we've done so many compasses, you get very good at it. So happy to look at anyone's and help. So that's one of ours. So execution. I love sharing models and motivating you to all step up to utilize your personal brand, but nothing happens without execution. So let's jump into that. It's way more important. I'm an Aussie, so there's a terrible saying that says half-assed is better than no-assed. It's shocking, but I had to put it in there. So let me share with you the lead gen process and how this all comes together. So I'm going to share with you our flow of how we do it for ourselves, me personally, Natalie, Shane, and then lots of other businesses as well. The first step is we have to get those foundations in place, which is what this workshop is about. How do we get your personal brand foundations in place, which includes your compass and your values? Once we have that, Mickey and the offshore team who create all the content, Mickey will interview you, or Tori will interview you for 1 hour a month. And that is ample content and video. If you choose to do video, we love video, because people really get to know you and spend time with you. And that will then generate into the content. So on LinkedIn, it's really important that you need to boost the algorithm. And to boost the algorithm, you need to have engaging content, and you need to be showing up in people's feeds. So I don't care if you have 20,000 people that you're connected to, but if you don't have content that resonates with them and shows up in their feed and boosts the algorithm, it's kind of a bit of vanity metrics at the end of the day. So we first start with really great engaging content, and we're posting 2 to 3 times a week. And we're making sure that that boosts the algorithm through engagement. So you can see there that Mickey and her team take that 9 boxes, and then we have a full Monday.com board where each of those pillars are now pulled out into content pieces. So my job's really easy. I show up for an interview with her. I'm usually driving the car, or she presses record on Riverside, and I don't know how, but she gets so many snippets of video content. And then she pulls that together for me. And my job is merely to go into Monday, review the content, approve, or give feedback. So a very quick exercise in order for me to get to that. Before, Shane, I don't know how long it was taking you to write your posts every week. And then did you go 3 weeks and go, oh, haven't wrote anything or posted anything?
Yeah, I went to school in the SEC, so I'm not Harvard or Stanford grad like some of you on the phone. So it took me a little longer.
Well, I mean, the thing is I find it really hard to sit down and go, oh, let me write about myself. It's not something that comes naturally. So it's great when you have somebody else asking you the right questions, and then taking from that the key things and articulating it in a much better way than as I ramble. So I love this exercise, and it's a bit of a set and forget. 2 to 3 posts a week, boost the algorithm, and show up in people's feed and remain top of mind. A lot of our clients are looking for RFPs, so they don't want to have to do 12 lunches and fly and meet their clients 12 times in the year in order to be top of mind for the RFP. So this way, we're liking and commenting on that client's posts. We're showing them up in their feed 2 to 3 times, and people feel like they know me as a personal friend, and I probably only met them once or twice. So the authenticity is really important here. It's quite the art. So now that we've got that going, we've boosted the algorithm, we're posting not just about our business, but about our personal and also our purpose. We're now going to look at how do we generate leads. And this is one thing, most people do LinkedIn, they don't know how to get it to the next lead level. And it's not by getting a bot, scraping people, and then as soon as they connect with you saying, buy my shit. That doesn't work. They're just going to either delete you, not respond to you. It actually does the opposite of brand building because it ruins your reputation. It erodes trust because the reason you were connecting in the first place was obviously just to hit me up for something. So there's a real art in how we do this. And please keep in mind that if you're using a bot, you will jeopardize your personal brand, and you can't ring them and say sorry and say, can you please give it back? You've got to remember why Instagram and LinkedIn are in business. Instagram and Meta are there to help sell products to people. So if AI starts doing all the work, the other AI doesn't have a credit card. It doesn't know how to buy something from it. Same in LinkedIn. They're in the business of paid ads for recruitment. So they're not going to let an AI bot come in and try and create connections and do all of that, because then you can't hire an AI bot yet. So that's the business that they're in. So they want real people making real connections, having real conversations. So please don't jeopardize your profile with a bot. So here's the lead gen. So let's look at the old school way. You have a salesperson, they're going out and doing the tiresome networking, very expensive exercise, both in wages, travel, and conference tickets. They're narrowing down from that small parcel of people, potentially some qualified leads. They're then having several meetings with them in order to hopefully get to a proposal and a conversion. You can do this on steroids when you harness LinkedIn. So what we do, which is on the other side, is we actually delegate all the hunting and gathering of the salesperson and just get the salesperson to show up and close, whether that be at a conference or on a Zoom meeting. So our numbers end up looking a lot more attractive. We're putting 800 people into the top of the funnel. We're getting 120 connections, which leads to 90 interactions and 48 proposals. So this is how do we take the EAT strategy. We never stop being personalized and H to H, human to human, but how do we do this at the next level? So I'm going to walk you through how we do it. The first step is we hire a LinkedIn specialist and we train them. That's from the Philippines. So we take someone with 10 years LinkedIn experience in the Philippines, and then we train them in this process. They're spending 40 hours on my profile every week. They're a full-time employer sitting underneath me with access with a firewall to my LinkedIn profile. So Mickey and her team are creating the content, and then I have my secret weapon, which is my LinkedIn lead gen specialist. And this picture here also shows that you can share that. We have a number of clients that have teams of 10 to 15 sales reps, and they'll have 20 hours on each of them each week, right? That they're in their profiles. So we have a target list, and we usually start at least 2 or 3 months beforehand. And Bettina, who's here on the call and will be joining me in the lead gen room, she heads up this whole process. So she will come in and build this inside the business. And what she's looking at is, what's our next campaign? What's the next conference we're going to in the next 3 months? Or what is the list from Zoom Info or something like that we've generated that we want to warm and we want to get to book appointments? Then what we do is we develop scripts, and we work through scripts that don't say straight away, hey, buy something from me. They're going from a very personalized connection. After we've liked and commented, we like and comment on these people for 3 to 4 weeks before we even ask for a connection request. And that gives us an average of almost 50% connection to request to connection, which is huge, right? How many people can achieve that with strangers? So we like and comment on them for 3 to 4 weeks. We send them a very personalized message, which gets us the connection. And then we continue to add value to that person. We're sending them value-based content. Ads don't work for conversion, but in LinkedIn, but they certainly work for feeding content to the target list that we may have got from Zoom Info or a conference attendee list. So here's one of our run sheets. So this is what my LinkedIn specialist is working on. Every week, she's putting another 200 people in the funnel, and she's ticking off these activities. So you're probably thinking 40 hours a week? How could they possibly spend that much time on your profile? But consider this, if every week 200 people are going into that funnel, she's got the last 3 weeks of people at 200 that she needs to continue to like and comment on, and we're doing it manually, remember, because if we use a bot, we're in trouble. Then on week 4 or 5, she's got message number 1 that she has to send. We send up to 5 messages before we ask a potential client to do anything. And even then, it's either, would you like to come to an event, or would you like to jump on a call to get to know each other more, right? I think I could add value. I'd love to learn more about you. So she's ticking off these activities. That's a lot of work for one person to do. And then we're scorecarding that on the way through. So this is what we call our tracker, which Bettina works with on the LinkedIn specialist to make sure that our target list, all of those that have been pre-qualified that we know are active on LinkedIn, and then spending the time to nurture them. So this isn't an overnight thing. This is, 8 to 12 weeks to get to an outcome, which to me is a booking and a meeting. It's a 12-week minimum exercise. But if you start now, you continue to feed your funnel. And I'm going to show you some case studies of how that works. So then the LinkedIn specialist job is to get us the meeting, which we use our Once Hub or Calendly for. And at that point, she enters it into the CRM. So you might have Salesforce or Pipedrive or something like that. And she tags me and says, you have a meeting. I don't even know about it until that point. Up until that point, this is all happening in the background. I just show up with Mickey, do my interviews, and show up for the meeting. They're the 2 things I need to show up for in this lead gen process, or your salespeople. And then we're tracking it. We want to know from the 200 people that we're nurturing a week, how many of those accepted our connection, how many of those went on to have a conversation with us that was meaningful, and then how many of those went on to book a meeting and then turned into a client. And we call this your magic numbers. So I would ask all of you, do you know what your salespeople's magic numbers are for both conferences and for lead gen on online? And most people don't. But when you look at activity equals outcome, I'm outrunning everybody as far as activity. So I have much higher chances, and you're always refining your scripts. You're always refining your positioning so that all I have to do is show up and close, show up and close, show up and close. So here's some scorecards. The top one is around the number of meetings booked for a virtual campaign. And the bottom one is a conference campaign. So this is another YPOer. They've got 3 conferences, I think, that you did with them, Bettina, and 1 that's virtual. You can see how many are attending the conference. We warm them before we even go, so everybody knows who they are when they show up. And we Bettina and her team managed to get them 53 meetings at the conference and 83 after the conference. So conferences are no longer about going and drinking beer. It's the hardest your salespeople will ever work. And they really don't like me and Bettina for it, but the CEO certainly likes the outcomes, and then they get their commission, so they're fine. So, don't think of conferences as big, expensive exercises. You don't have to have a booth. You just need to be smart and work sooner at nurturing so that you can book appointments there and you don't have to pay for expensive booths? And then how many conferences can you do then to generate this sort of activity? I hope that all makes sense, but I'm happy to take it offline. These are our events. We run our own EGS events. We're targeting, a lot of you are thinking, well, how do you get the attention of people that are running companies that sell 200 million? I had an event last night here in Scottsdale. We had 130 people there, and I think I knew 2 of them. And Shane, you had an event at the same time, so I can't even say that I was able to have YPOers in the room because they're all at your event. We must check calendars next time. So from the 4,000 people we were nurturing to come to an event, we had 196 RSVPs to that event. They were all pre-qualified as being either 1 to 10 mil or 10 mil plus. Our budget, which is always the food, the alcohol, the airfares, the accommodation, that's how much it cost us for the event. If I can find people to host it, it halves that. Or if I can find a sponsor, it halves that. So we generated 48 leads on average, 345 per lead. And in our business, that's a really low cost per acquisition, not to mention the shortened time in sales conversion as well. So that's an example on how we use it in our business. And the budget, I'm sure you're all thinking, how much does this cost? The lead gen specialist, if you get them half time, so if they're 20 hours on each salesperson, works out at about $1,800 a month. And then your posts that get done, Mickey and her team charge $1,600 for that, 2 to 3 posts every week. So overall, when you look at the budget versus the outcome, this is how I get my cost per acquisition down, and I'm well below the industry average. So before we go into breakouts, I'll give you everyone the slides. Natalie and Michaela have kindly offered to take any of your workshop activities and do a 1-hour deep dive with you if you want to run through your foundations and get them right. We've done it a lot of times. It's really hard to do for yourself because it's personal. You're too close to it. So please take them up on this offer if you'd like an hour with them to work through your foundations and get those finalized. And I want to see who I've either freaked you in or freaked you out. So how many of you are actually committed to now having a personal brand? I'd love to see a show of hands. If Yay, Julian, well done. Awesome. Oh, awesome. I can't wait to see you all on my feed. Excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad I was able to break it down for you guys so you realize this is not hard. If I can do it, you can do it. You just need secret weapons. All right, well, let's get started then. We have some breakout rooms, and Shane, you're going to take Personal Compass, is that right? The 9 boxes?
That's correct.
Awesome. Is that room 1? I've got all my room numbers out of whack. So room 1, I think, is Personal Compass. Room 2, I think, is values with Mickey. So defining those 4 values. Room 3 is me and Bettina on lead gen. So how do we actually drive lead gen? If you've got sales teams, you might want to join me in that room. And 4 is the customer value journey. So actually mapping out what your sales process looks like so you can get to those magic numbers of 200, 20, 10 to whatever it is. So is that the right order? Did I get that right? I'm pretty sure I stuffed that up.
Mara, I have a question. Are we doing Q&A before breakout room or?
Yeah, we can certainly do that first rather than losing people now. I'd be happy to do that. How long have we got for Q&A? And then just to make sure I'm on track.
10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Shane, you ready?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's go. Questions? So Bruce, hey Bruce. Bruce has a question. Hey,
Yes, hey,
hello, lovely. Congratulations on the baby.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So great to see you. And hey, community, great to see you. So I wanted to, I think kind of the foundations of the way you set it up is it's all either the CEO or your second C-suite player or national or main salesperson. How well does this process transfer to the next layer down in terms of the sales reps? And where is that handoff? How does that work in terms of, integrating those players into that, like you said, show up to close?
That's a really good question. The reason we like to start with the CEO is it also helps with recruitment. And people like to know who owns the company, but that doesn't mean that they have to take the meeting. So we have a couple of YPOers, their revenue's over $1 billion. They're not going to jump on a call unless it's a massive whale. So we have a script that we've defined that helps position that somebody underneath them so they know who their team is. So for example, they might say they're nurturing them. We usually nurture them for longer if we're passing them to somebody. So we might nurture for them for 2 months and then say, hey, my head of retail is going to be in Scottsdale next week, and I was talking to them about you, and I'd love for you to meet for coffee while he's in town. Can I do the introductions? So then the LinkedIn lead gen specialist knows each person and we have a campaign in Scottsdale, and the CEO is driving the leads to that person in Scottsdale. So that's one thing. And then this other thing is that you really this is a huge investment in their personal brand. It's costing you money. So I'm not going to give that to a new salesperson. I want to give that to people who have been with me for a while that I want to leverage, because we have had incidences and full transparency where we've built someone's brand up and then they've left the organization. So it's very important that you pick the key salespeople that you want to empower with this. And then, it's the personal branding. Corporate branding on LinkedIn doesn't work. It's all about personal. They usually only use the corporate to go see who you work for because they're curious, but that's as much as they do. It's all about the personal brand. So we say, do it with people that you trust, or spend a little bit longer nurturing them and then make it look spontaneous when you say, hey, I just spoke to Shane and he's in Scottsdale and I thought of you and I'd love for you to meet. So it's all in that scripting again, which, you need to master. We've got examples. We've refined those scripts over the years. So does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
That's awesome.
I think I saw another hand.
We did get another question in the comments, Tamara. How do you maintain humility when building your personal brand is part one. And then the second is earned media is normally more valuable than self-proclaim or paid.
Amen. Well, paid goes in your feed and it's gone. Organic's around forever. It pays the best dividends when it comes to investment. It just takes longer and people are impatient. And I'm not talking about dodgy SEO backlinking. Google's smarter than that. It knows that that article that you put on that website that no one visits isn't validated. It's all about domain authority. So, Mickey, you have a very good strategy on how you can get people into relevant domain authority like entrepreneur.com and places like that through SEO. That's more important. But yes, they're really highly valuable. And it also helps build trust because you're the subject matter expert. Did you want to talk to the first part of that question? I feel that that's perfect for you.
Sure. This is something that we hear, and I hear on a daily basis, I would say, from individuals who are worried about looking, as though they're self-centered, maybe not quite in the light that they're hoping to. And in my experience, at least, it's all in the execution. If you're coming into this with the intent of giving advice, as we look at in YPO, for example, it's not always going to come off in the best light. We're looking for experience shares, relatability, and writing in the first person. Anytime we start proclaiming or trying to give advice from kind of a thought leadership or a motivational speaker style, it just doesn't quite land. So when we talk about real things to real people, that's what resonates. So when we look at your values and your compass, we want to make sure that we're aligned with what really matters to you, who you're talking to, and then how are we sharing instead of directing or giving advice to. And that's really kind of the simplest way to explain it. But you'll know the revisions process is a really important part of this. And so you being able to go in and look and listen and read out loud the content. Does this sound like me? Is this something I would say in conversation? That's going to help shape the way that the writing comes out as well.
And Mick, yeah, I'll jump into another way. It's a great question by Devin. I think Nike, I mean, it's an old school marketing principle, but I think Nike had it right in highlighting their athletes, right? So in this case, your personal brand, if part of your personal brand is being a father, right, highlighting your family. And you don't have to be super personal and put a picture of your wife, but tell a story on how your wife helped you get better, right? Because we are trying to get better, and our wives are trying to make us better. Um, but if it's impact, so for like me, it would be Make-A-Wish, highlighting a Wish kid and their story and how they inspired me, right? That's a great way not to come off about me, but me sharing and empowering and other people who impact is in their personal brand. That's going to resonate with them. So hopefully that helps as well.
More of him in my feed. See, that's what we need.
There's
And
another
you,
question in the
yep.
comments, sorry. Do you take a different approach from B2B to B2C?
Yes, obviously, this is very leaning towards B2B, but I think the number one thing people have forgotten is that most people on LinkedIn are consumers. So there is a place for this, both in expanding your retail network, loving up your existing customers. We have a whole love up campaign, which is how do we just make sure that we remain top of mind and share all the innovative things we're doing in our business to our existing, suppliers. Natalie, do you have a little bit more? I mean, you're the retail queen. Do you want to share a bit on this?
Yeah, sure. I think fundamentally, it doesn't matter whether we're doing B2B, D2C, e-com. The key thing is the customer value journey. And what you've actually described in detail today is the customer value journey that works really, really well for B2B. So it's really just a case of taking the customer value journey, and I'm going to be running a room on that in just a moment, with regard to the B2C or D2C, whatever you want to call it, and how we shape the customer value journey with the pieces that we use in that. And LinkedIn may well be a good piece. That personal branding can also add to that. And then we can expand it with other channels to create the story that needs to run through to get those conversions. Because there's a real psychology that works behind this whole process. And it doesn't matter, as I said, B2B, D2C, e-com, the psychology of it is what actually creates the movement. It creates the adding the value and also increasing the trust at every stage.
And obviously, organic is Google as well. So, this CVJ and this content strategy might be relevant for a YouTube channel as well. You've got to define where your customer avatar is and create content to be in front of them.
There's another question submitted. So in order to build a brand, you need to create a strong CVP for your brand and be coherent during the life of delivering that value. As we have so many different targets, how do you start creating your unique value proposition?
That's another one for Natalie, CVJ and CAs.
I'm here. Do you want to answer that question now? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you always say that each one of them has to have their own customer avatar, CVJ, and scorecard.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So the key thing about marketing is that if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So you want to be very, very specific about who you're talking to. And that's why we use a particular avatar. And that's why we couple a customer value journey with that avatar. And so we have a list that are all of the same sort of people in this particular circumstance using B2B. And then we work that list through that customer value journey using this LinkedIn and module in this particular case. So, it's very marketing. People think it's a big crystal ball. It's actually very repeatable if you understand how to build the frameworks around it and you understand the pieces that go together to make to move somebody from a stranger to a super fan. It can be very repeatable if done properly.
And the thing is to define that. If you've got a lot of people, then pick your top 3, define them as a customer. You want to get very micro granular on your targeting, map out that CVJ, that customer value journey, and then there's a CVJ scorecard that optimizes that campaign for that customer. Because if I'm talking to fellow CEOs and founders, it's different to if I'm talking to somebody from YPO, it's different to talking to somebody who might have a startup or someone who might be a venture capital fund that has a portfolio of businesses that they need help with. It's a different conversation. So you can't confuse it. You have to have a CVJ, a customer avatar, and a scorecard for each.
You'll also find the tone changes. So when you start at the very beginning of a conversation, you've just met somebody for the first time, you're going to have probably a little bit more of a formal type approach to your conversation because you don't know them. And think of your own relationships right now. Once you know somebody for a long time, the way that you speak to them changes significantly. So these are also the things that you factor into your customer value journeys.
Unless you're in YPO and you just go straight to 5%ers, you know.
Yeah, well.
I got to laugh at her, Sarah. Thank you.
There's another question I'll pose. Kim says, this is fantastic, Tamara. What are your thoughts about people who send connection requests and in-mails instantly instead of going through the nurturing sequence? And second to that is, do you have your LinkedIn outbound specialist have an already created lead list?
Good question. I don't believe in spamming people. So that's a version of spamming. They're playing the high volume, low margin model. And unless you have unlimited customers and you can do that and you don't care about brand recognition, then go for it. You probably have a very low connection request and certainly won't have a high take-up rate. Sorry to be harsh. I'm a bit of an Aussie. I'm pretty direct. I just don't even think that's worth the effort. The second part of the question was...
Does your lead gen specialist have a list created already?
Got it. So yes, one of the exercises that we do when we're engaged is we look at the first campaign. We'll define that customer avatar and then we go look for a list. So a lot of our clients have Zoom Info or Apollo. We also have those so we can generate lists for you. And we also generate lists using Sales Navigator as well. But we just need to be very clear on who that customer is. Is it the CEO, the founder? What's the size of the business? What's the industry? Again, that micro granular targeting is really critical. We create that list based on it. I don't want to waste your salespeople's time showing up to meetings with people who don't qualify. So we have to qualify the list first before we even go and nurture them, because I need to make sure they're the ideal client before we get started. And you'll find, depending on the industry, you know, the real estate sector, for example, 80% of those are on LinkedIn and they're very active. The manufacturing sector, 40%. So we also, there's no point liking and commenting and engaging people that log into their LinkedIn every 6 months. So that's the next exercise, is cleaning the list and looking at those 4,000. We usually start with 4,000 because we're doing 200 a week. So you get through the numbers pretty quickly. Then we clean that list to see how many of those are active on LinkedIn. Now, that doesn't mean we throw away the other 50% that aren't. We can nurture them as well in the same way through email campaigns and other efforts as well. So the LinkedIn lead gen in particular, we're using for that 50%, but we also, the remaining ones that aren't active, we also put them into a funnel, but it doesn't have anywhere near the engagement rate that what we get when we are able to nurture them properly.
There's another question, if we have time. I think we're just at time. I can answer in the comments if we've hit our limit.
Pleasure, Kim. I think we're good.
If we can take one question, or we can just go to breakout room.
Sure. The last question is quite short. It's, how does one become a LinkedIn top voice? And does that help, or is it just vanity?
That's a good one. Shane, Natalie? You're the famous one here, Shane. I'm not a professional athlete, you know.
If you're coming from an authentic position and you're actually serving, I definitely think it's worth doing. And I don't think it's about vanity. Certainly, you know, you do have some bad actors on there. But what we're talking about today is your personal brand. And then obviously you're going to do the same thing with your business. and then systematizing it. We all know, people, process, product, but people and systems make, essentially make money and make impact. So all the stuff they're talking about, I'm not a part of Concertina, but I am actually a client for many years, and that's why I can speak to this. Um, what is it worth to you? I see my friend Andy Harris on here who done a great job selling YPO companies to strategics, right? All of this systematized for Andy and him having 20 meaningful conversations a week with YPOers who are 6 to 9 months from selling, who also resonate with what he resonates with. What is that worth? And as Tamara said, a lot of us have angel companies. I'll just throw this out here too on here. If you've invested your money in a company, you want them doing this because you want that scorecard. You want to see what direction they're going in. You want some accountability and intentionality. So I use that for my angel investments as well. But it's long story short, if you come at a position to serve from a heartfelt position, right, and empower other people, no matter what your three pillars are in your personal brand, it can be anything. We're very talented on this call, but you're empowering other people to share their message with what resonates with them as well. And that's what I love about it. It's almost contagious, and it's kind of, sharing throughout the world with this crowd.
It's an ecosystem, certainly. And I think you've got to look at the meaning behind whether you want to get that certification or that badge, as they call it. A lot of the time, that involves you needing to have a lot of followers. And that means that I may have inbound inquiries from people that don't qualify. So you just need to be very mindful if you're doing the large game of lots of people in your feed, but really only 1 or 2% of those people are your ideal clients, then you need to have a filtering system on the funnel.
It's all about the quality, not the quantity. You can have 100,000 people coming to your website, but really only 1,000 of those are your true customers. They're the only 1,000 you really need. The rest of it's just vanity.
Said like another true Aussie straight shooter. All right. Sounds like we're going into breakout rooms. I love getting to know everyone. That was so much fun. Have we solved the world's problems, Mickey?
Always, and then some.
Well, I think your calendar's going to be full. Sorry. You did volunteer.
It's all good.
All right. I'd love to hear a little bit of highlights from everybody's room if we have time. Mickey, kick it off, seeing I was picking on you.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Some great questions around different platforms or channels, but also how to leverage the values and the compass together to create content was really the biggest takeaway. Those tools, the compass itself is a great start, and then you can use the values as a lens or an angle to create additional content for each of those pieces as well. So lots of different opportunities to use both tools in different ways. There's no right or wrong, but I think that ability to use both and leverage them was kind of one of the biggest takeaways.
Oh, they're clever people. They've figured it out already, and the two go together, and they've 10x'd it on you. I love it. How about you, Shane?
Yeah, so first of all, very interesting. We have some of the top CEOs in the world in our breakout session, and most of us hadn't gone through this process before, and really helpful to start going through it. In business, we do so many things to help our clients. So this is a great exercise to say, hey, what are the three that make it super clear what we do and how we add value? And that's not easy for some of the industries that we were talking about. And then I think the last one, Tamara, is really, if it's impact or whatever it is on the end, it could be family, right? Really understanding, the hows there and making sure we define those. The first time you do it, it is not easy, as you know. But great group session. The group was really engaged. So thank you guys.
Very cool. And Natalie, how did you go?
Well, I think I overwhelmed them with a customer value journey on speed. At speed. So a lot to take in, the 8 steps, the psychology of it. I think they've all got half a chance now of picking out where something's at in a customer value journey with regard to the stage and understanding what will come next and what should come next. And then we actually started to work that through with the LinkedIn process, and also start to talk about some metrics. So I was talking very, very fast.
Well, we do as Aussies, right? And they can keep up. They're fine. So what we've done actually is we pulled together a folder with the worksheets, with a deep dive into each of this, the compass, the CVJ, because the problem is that we've learned all of this and now we're going to take it back into our business and can try and articulate it. So rather than you doing that, we have all the videos, the resources, so that you can take it back into your business and apply that. So I'm just going to put the link to that folder in the chat so that you guys all have it. Natalie and Mickey, would you mind putting your calendar links in the chat if you don't mind? And thank you in advance for helping them all, because you know my mission is for business for good, and there's nothing better than all of these people driving their message online to make that happen. If anyone would like to make the Real Leaders list, please reach out. I'm friends with the founder. They're a fellow YPOer. I'd love to see you all in the top 300 real leaders for being intentional, impactful leaders next year. And any way that I can serve you, please, let's all like and comment on each other's posts. Let's start there, because,
Supporting each other.
Exactly. There's nothing worse than getting 1 or 2 likes when you first start. Let's all just make sure we support each other and make that commitment as well today. And then lastly, Shane, thank you. You are such a great leader, and you just keep going from strength to strength. Every time I catch up with you, you're kicking another ball out of the park, which just, go figure, or probably dunking another one is probably more the right way of saying it. So, I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, but, if anyone is a great example of the reason why you should step up, it's you.
Thank you so much. And I love how engaged everyone on the call was today. I really hope this will help you in your personal and professional journey. And our YPO family is just amazing. So thank you guys.
Thank you. And I'm going to leave you with a quote. Don't be scared to present the real you to the world. Authenticity is at the heart of success. And if you've ever met a successful leader, they make it look effortless because they're head, heart, coherent. So may you all have success in both profit and purpose. Good to see some familiar faces. Thank you for joining and listening to us all. And please reach out if we can be of service in any way in true YPO spirit. Thanks, everyone.